Fortunately, the Mars flyby was successful, the very first one, picking up where we left off on the previous presentation. Now this is a Mars lander, not a Mars flyby. We have another great accomplishment in the world of space exploration, a great moment, and this is the first woman in space on the 16th of June, 1963. And we're going to continue with another clip from the History channel, history.com, of the Mercury 13.
For Cobb and the other women, the race to space was over. On June 16th, 1963, the Russians beat the United States again. A Soviet cosmonaut named Valentina Tereshkova became the first woman in space. The 26-year-old Russian wasn't even a pilot. She was a textile factory worker. Tereshkova spent 3 days in space. At that point, more time than all 6 American Mercury flights combined.
So in your notes, probably on that page 14, Mercury 13 women, the flats, you want to jot down that Valentina Tereshkova became the very first woman in space in June of 1963. This is not an autograph I have, but it'd be an autograph that would be wonderful to have. So if you'd like to start a GoFundMe page for a gift for your space exploration instructor, just kidding, don't do that. Tereshkova, June 1963. So check the box here. Starting a new segment from your notebook. The first woman in space. We really were hoping it might be Jerrie Cobb, Wally Funk, but it turned out to be Valentina Tereshkova. She trained with 4 other women. This is a commemorative patch for these 5 women. And in fact, Valentina Tereshkova's mission is where we have the first actual space-flown mission patch. So in her thermal gear that was under her spacesuit, you see here is a practice situation of putting on the multiple layers. This was the first space-flown patch, and it's a dove with, of course, CCCP for the USSR. And on the 50th anniversary of Tereshkova becoming the first woman in space, the first time they ever made replica patches, and the one similar in size to what she wore, and then one about half the size. Another patch that was worn on her thermal layer under her spacesuit in training times was this Vostok patch for Mission 5 and Mission 6, for which Tereshkova was a Vostok 6 mission. So doing all the wonderful tests that they found necessary to prepare you to be a cosmonaut. Now in that history clip they did mention that she wasn't a pilot. She was not like the Mercury 13 women who she was recruited because of her piloting skills. She was a factory worker and recruited on the basis of, do you want to become a cosmonaut, along with the 4 other women that trained together. And unlike the Mercury 13 women, the 5 cosmonauts training to be the first woman in space, they did train alongside the male cosmonauts. And who better to give tips about going into space from than Yuri Gagarin himself. As she went into orbit, she radioed, "This is Seagull. I feel fine and cheerful. I see the horizon, a pale blue stripe. It's the Earth. How beautiful it is." It's not a seagull that was depicted on her patch, but that was her call sign, name for her mission. And let's just take a look at some of the footage from that wonderful moment in June of 1963. Like the Gagarin mission, the United States press made a lot of fuss that Gagarin and Tereshkova were not actually in control or piloting their vehicle. And when the Soviet Union collapsed and many things were then declassified from the era of communism, Valentina Tereshkova was able to discuss a situation where she was able to be certainly in much more control of her vehicle and space mission than had originally been perceived by the United States in the following clip.
Ну, я должна сказать, что к космическому полету я готовилась вместе с другими девушками в то время, кандидатами на полет. Нас было всего 5 человек. Во-первых, Юрий Гагарин, уже слетал Герман Титов, и они, естественно, были нашими первыми друзьями. Я могу сказать, что мой космический корабль был сориентирован так и заложен в автоматику, что вместо того, чтобы тормозная двигательная установка, когда включится, не сталкивала корабль, а наоборот поднимала орбиту. И, естественно, я бы могла и не вернуться. Эту ошибку я заметила сразу, когда корабль вышел уже в открытый космос и началась работа. Я доложила на Землю нашему главному конструктору Сергею Павловичу Королеву. И мне дали все данные для того, чтобы я исправила эту ошибку, потому что координаты дает Земля. Все я внесла, приземлилась, все отработало, было нормально, но поскольку в то время шла, соревнование было довольно жесткое с американцами, поэтому наш главный конструктор сказал, не надо говорить об этом. Но я могу сказать совершенно откровенно, с самых первых полетов, с полета Юрия Гагарина, наша страна всегда выступала за мирные исследования космического пространства. Потому что Земля одна, на которой мы живем, и небо одно, которое нас укрывает. Поэтому это очень хорошо, что государства, руководители многих государств осознали это и сейчас плодотворно сотрудничают в исследовании космического пространства.
So Tereshkova had been instructed on returning to Earth to fire the retro rockets, but she knew that the vessel was facing the wrong way, so that would have meant that she'd been propelled into a much higher orbit instead of coming on home. So here she is, very relieved to have been alert and been able to communicate and make the adjustments. She could return safely. Congratulatory moment here, I presume, with Yuri Gagarin and Tereshkova. Looks like they're signing autographs. Again, that would be awesome to have Tereshkova autograph or Gagarin in the collection. Tereshkova recently, within probably the last 10-15 years, made an announcement that she would be very much willing to be the very first person to go to Mars. What made her claim so much more significant than other claims that they're willing to do this is she has said that she is willing to be the first person to travel to Mars and would be fine if it were a one-way mission. And that's a dedication to the world of exploration that we know it's difficult to try and plan 2-year travel mission to Mars. How would you survive on Mars? And then how would you be able to safely return? What would be the fuel consumption? So on and so forth. But she has made it known that she's more than happy and willing to be the first person to travel to Mars and accepts that it could be a one-way mission. A bird cannot fly with one wing only. Human spaceflight cannot develop any further without the active participation of women. You know you've made it big in life when Star Trek names a vessel after you, so a shuttlecraft on the program Voyager was named the Tereshkova, which was quite fitting as the Voyager Star Trek series was the one in which made history for having the first female captain of a Star Trek spin-off series. Back to reality with our Mercury 13 women, and it would make sense to put the Mercury women on page 13, but I like to put the Mercury 7 on page 13 in the astronomy notebook so that the Mercury 13 are getting a little recognition amongst the fame of the Mercury 7. I told you we will jump around a little bit here. We're going to have you jot down the Mercury 13 women's names. Here we have Myrtle K. She went by the name K. Cagle. So you'll just jot down Cagle as a surname. We then have, and remember I'm skipping, you have already written Jerrie Cobb. We have the Dietrich twins. On the left we have Jan. And since you do have the same last name, so one of the times you'll jot down a first name as well in the World of Astronomy Space Explorations class. And the Dietrich twin pictured here on the right is Marion Dietrich. Continuing my theme of jumping around a bit, penultimate woman on this left column is Sarah Ratley. This is Janey Hart. She's the one who was alongside Jerrie Cobb testifying in Congress about the importance of women in the space program for NASA. Second column, on the top of the page. Jean Hixson. Next we have Rhea Woltman. And continuing with Jean Jessen. Irene Leverton. Penultimate on the second column here, we have Jerri Truhill. And rounding out the second column, B. Steadman. And then jumping back here to the one I saved for last because she's just a true character. This is Wally Funk II. You just need to have Funk. Wally was the youngest of the Mercury 13. She heard about the program through Jerrie Cobb, and she contacted Dr. Lovelace and pretty much begged to get into the program. She attended Space Academy as an adult 2 years in 1991 and 2001. This next picture might make you think this is why Wally Funk is my favorite, but Wally Funk is my favorite for many reasons, but you know, this definitely helps the admiration level. Funk in a Superman costume. And here's 2 minutes of Wally Funk's very charismatic personality.
The Mercury 13 girls out of 25 were tested very, very hard at Lovelace Clinic in Albuquerque, New Mexico. 13 passed, but only 2 of us went on to do more of the testing. And I was the only one to go on with 4 tests and going to Russia and being with the cosmonauts. I was very lucky to be young, and as many of the doctors told me, I excelled in all the tests that were given to me and passed the tests, passed ahead of the tests that the Mercury 7 guys took. So I've had a wonderful experience of going through all this testing, but I never got to go up because when I applied to NASA 4 times. They said, Wally, we really want to have you, but you don't have an engineering degree. And I thought, well, you gave it to somebody else. Why couldn't you give it to me? That didn't go too well. Anyway, my heart and soul is with all these people. I've had a lot of great friends, and eventually I hope it's my time to go up.
Elaborating on a couple things that Wally mentioned in her clip there, she was indeed one of the 13 women that passed the training tests that were the same as the Mercury men. The woman that did go on to become fully qualified and pass all the tests was Jerrie Cobb. And Jerrie Cobb had the luxury of doing so because she was the first one brought into the program, and no pun intended, but she was piloting the tests and things that were being conducted that was part of this initiative for women into the space program. Jerrie Cobb was ready to move on to round 3 to begin jet training in Pennsylvania, and that is when the announcement came that the program was coming to an end. Wally mentioned in the clip that she had passed all 4 tests. She has done all of the training necessary to be a fully qualified astronaut, just didn't happen to go at the same time as she was training with the Mercury, now 13 women. She has applied to NASA 4 times to be an astronaut after the end of the Loveless program, and applied just as anyone would. As you submit your application, perform the tests, so on and so forth. She has applied 4 times, and it's that blasted engineering degree that has prevented her from being accepted into an astronaut class. One of the reasons I love Wally Funk is because of the book Wally Funk's Race for Space. It's written by Sue Nelson. Sue Nelson had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with Wally Funk for interviews, and also the BBC had asked Wally Funk to be a narrator for one of their radio shows. And so Sue had the opportunity to meet with her several times over the course of many years. And the book is a very quick read. It's very entertaining, and it's also very powerful about Wally Funk in how she was the one that pretty much took all the records, even beating the Mercury men on the test. For example, there was this one test that's a deprivation tank where you're placed into a body of water, a tub of water that you're fully submersed in. There's like a, what we probably call a pool noodle now underneath your back, and the temperature of the water is specifically set to match your body temperature, which has this odd effect that making you feel pretty much nothing. You can't sense your own body, and it was one of the ways they thought they could try and simulate what it might like to be in space. And the women were just put in this tank just like the men were, and just put in there until they decided we'd had enough. And Wally Funk was is very competitive, and was very competitive during these training sessions, and she always wanted to go for the record. And she does have the record for the isolation tank at 10 hours. I think it was 10 hours 34 minutes, but it was definitely over 10 hours, which was by far a new record for that particular test. So she was definitely an amazing candidate, and just one of the top Mercury 13 astronauts, along with Jerrie Cobb. So this book, I'd highly recommend it for you. It's a book that many of us had started to read upon my request in space explorations class, because an amazing announcement was here that as part of the USU, Utah State University's aviation program Year of the Woman, they were hosting Wally Funk. She was going to come to USU, speak in person on March 19th at 7 p.m. And I heard about this probably about 3 weeks before the event was to happen. And this was all I could think about, was the opportunity to meet living history, to meet one of the Mercury 13 women, and particularly Wally Funk being so charismatic and full of energy. And so excited, so looking forward to this, inviting so many people to this event. And unfortunately, The time period right here, about the second week of March, very much so the March 13th in 2020 for Utah students, when it was announced about 4 o'clock in the afternoon that school would be dismissed for 2 weeks because of the coronavirus, which was then extended to May 1st, and then of course we all know to the end of the school year. This event, as we began social distancing and staying at home to stay safe, flatten the curve. This was one of the events that certainly was canceled, and I was completely devastated to not have the opportunity to see Wally in person and my hope to get her autograph for the book. Most certainly this pales in comparison to the seniors across the globe who would miss out on their last marking period together in traditional ceremonies in traditional formats. And certainly all of that pales in comparison to those whose lives were succumbed to because of the coronavirus. Myself, I've lost a friend very recently to the coronavirus, and it's just an amazing time to be in history, amazing in terms of just, wow, there's never been anything like this that any of us who are alive currently on the planet have been a witness or a party to. And then a reminder of the first woman astronaut trained, qualified, certified for the United States NASA program, of course, Jerrie Cobb. And she was about to begin the final phase of her training to be jet certified, and that was when the end of what we now call the Mercury 13 occurred. We'll close this out with a quote from Jerrie Cobb herself. "I would give my life to fly in space. It's hard for me to talk about it, but I would. I would then, and I will now."